Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak. And I want to say Shalom to Akmanakwath out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And what I did in the open was giving praises to the Father and the Son and the true Paleo-Hebrew names. All right, the Father's name being Yahweh, and the Son's name being Yahweh Shai. This lesson is going to be titled Workers of Iniquity, the Insurrection of America. All right, and as you can see, I got quite a few tabs up, some stuff I want to touch about, some videos I wanted to play. There was in case you haven't heard about it yet, all right, in Minneapolis, there was a shooting, all right, that happened with ICE, which is short for, I believe, Immigration Customs Enforcement, and with this lady. And I watched the video a couple times, made sure I was, getting, I watched a couple different angles of it, and, I came to the conclusion, all right, that this was just, it was just a murder. All right, it was just a murder, as Esau likes to do. All right, Esau, of course, being the so-called white man. Not every so-called white-looking person is an Edomite, but that's just how it goes. Just like Israel's, the true Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, as we are derogatorily called today. And it's derogatory because we're not being called by our true nation. All right, that's something that they've covered up and lied about. And that's what they call our people. And it's just same thing. Not every so-called black-looking or Latino-looking or Native American-looking person is going to be an Israelite. But, most that you see will be, just as most of the so-called white people that you see will be Edomites. But there's always underliers. There's always underliers. So it's not a skin color thing, all right? It's a lineage thing, all right? A bloodline thing through our fathers, all right? That's what it's about. A lot of people try to incorrectly make it about race, all right? As far as race goes for them, it's just skin color, and it's much deeper. It's not necessarily race, ethnicity, sure, all right? But that's all through the bloodline of the father, and it all goes back onto what Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai made you as, okay? So like I said, watch this video a couple times. It was brought to my attention by all these breaking news. There's quite a few videos here. Of course, I got the video up on Reddit, and we're gonna go and look through that. You see all these videos here. New details emerge after a woman shot and killed by ICE agent in Minneapolis. Renee Good, Minneapolis woman shot by ICE agent. Eyewitness accounts of woman shot by ICE agent in Minneapolis. She was peaceful. Witness on fatal ICE shooting in Minneapolis. And of course, on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And thousands, there's a lot of people. Look at all these people. There's thousands gather for vigil in Minneapolis following fatal shooting by an ICE agent. Right? And that's a lot of people. And as we get closer and closer to the end, all right, and we are, all right, and I gave the extra information in the intro, as this type of video generally seems to attract wider viewers than just the usual viewers, all right, so I try to make sure that the information is, there, all right, for people that are curious. If you haven't heard about us, we're the Hebrew Israelites, all right, we preach the word of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, again, Yahweh being the true name of the Father. The world ignorantly refers to him as God. All right, and then of course, Ba'ashem, which means in the name of, in Paleo Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, Yahweh Shai, which is the Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. So, that's what we're here to do. All right, we're here to preach and teach the word of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and we're here to make these lessons, all right, so you can see what's going on with the world, if the Lord's dealing with you, and, to call our people back, all right, let them know who they are, and if the Lord, reaches out to them, all right, through the videos, that's how it goes. We don't do any of the heavy lifting as far as waking people up. We don't have anything to do with that. All right, that's all Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. We make the videos, and if the Lord happens to have you stumble across the video, hey, that's a great thing. That's a great sign. All right. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get into this. Just wanted to do my little intro, because these videos, generate a lot of traffic with people, searching Minneapolis shooting and all that, or the words being in there. I'm sure the transcript will be there, and it'll be sorted into those lists. All right, so with that, we're gonna start the lesson up. Again, all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Dash. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. All right, now this is from Minneapolis Reddit. All right, and it's titled "Full Footage of the Murder," and that's what it was, by ICE on 34th in Portland, including the vehicle of the ICE agent who committed the murder. Now, I want to start by saying, before we watch this video, all right, it is considered, one, a graphic video. All right, you're not going to see any heads exploding. You're not going to see anything super crazy like that. There will be a little bit of blood further in the clip. You'll see that, some screaming and some stuff like that. Not from the woman that was shot, but passerbys and people on standby, bystanders, I guess you could call them. You're going to see that, and on top of that, I don't condone what this woman did. Okay, now what she did was off. All right, it wasn't necessarily circumspect. All right, it's off according to the Bible, but according to the world, what she did really wasn't all that bad. They could have called it aggressive. It didn't look like she was trying to run over the man. All right, there's a lot of Edomites all over saying, oh, she was trying to run over the man, she was trying to run him over, she was trying to kill him. It doesn't look like that. All right, she was in this area. It looked like she might have been taking a turn to the right. This is her vehicle right here. You see it on the right, this SUV, this Honda. She was trying to turn right. There were some discrepancies. Some people tried to come over and mean mug her and pull her out of the vehicle. Again, that was another fault according to the Bible, because she should have been circumspect. All right, and let's go and get what that means. First of all, let's go and get that scripture. This is Ephesians 5:15. It says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." So you should be paying attention. You should be being careful. All right. Again, it might not be against the law to do certain things in the world, but just because it's not against the law in the world doesn't mean it's smart to do it in this truth. Okay. We understand that we're in a wicked time. All right. The days are evil. The Edomites, they're walking around like ravening wolves. All right. The devil walking about, seeking whom he may destroy. All right. We know these scriptures there, and we're sent as sheep in the middle of this. Again, quoting a multitude of scriptures all at once, roughly paraphrasing. So with that, we have to make sure we're walking rightly. And it doesn't always, it's not about, again, and that goes back to pride, not wanting to be seen as weak or any that. Look, sometimes you just have to understand that you have to back down in certain situations. You have to comply in most situations, or else you could be killed. You could be shot. You could end up going to jail. You could end up going to prison. Somebody could do something to you, right? If you, anything, right? You hold the door open for someone and the wind blows it. Oh, sorry, the wind blew it. My bad. What, did you try to slam it on me? I didn't try to slam it, as the wind. And sometimes you'll have to back down. And people in the world will say, oh, that's cowardly. It's not cowardly. It's being smart, all right? We weren't sent here to be brutish and bullish, all right? We were sent here to be wise. Let's get it. Wise as serpents, okay? Hoping it would still get it, even being half. But this is Matthew 10:16. It says, and this is red letter. This is Yahushua speaking. Again, as the world would say ignorantly, they'd say Jesus. This is Yahushua. It says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." We're supposed to have the aptitude, the mental aptitude, the wit, the sharpness, all right, of a serpent, all right? And serpents all throughout in literature, all right, even in the Bible, the devil, all right, is described as a serpent, all right, because serpents are cunning. All right, they're smart, they're thoughtful. All right, a lot of the time, with the imagery, they're deceitful. All right, they're crafty, and on the wicked side, the left hand side. But we're supposed to be not deceitful, but crafty, and what's the word I want to able to use guile, all right, for good. all right, to you know, talk people out of their anger, all right, get out of a deadly situation, right, and situations like that where we could, you know, potentially prolong our lives if the Lord has that His will be done, all right. And being harmless as doves. We're not supposed to be bullish and violent and brutish and savages and attacking people and YNs, all right? That's not how we're supposed to be, or vato loco, or crazy, you know, Chicano, like, you know, that type of culture that our people have, whether they be so-called, you know, black folk, Latino folk, or Native Americans, right? Because a lot of the time, with our people, Jake, all right, we get angered easily. Okay, we get angered easily, and especially as a people that has a lot of within the culture, there's a lot of issues of, you know, haste. All right, haste to, you know, try to prove something. All right, and that's because, you know, I get it. All right, it's not right, but we're a people that have been accused a lot. We're a people that have been harassed and offended a lot. So when someone does something, we're quick at it. All right, because we think someone's coming at us, and that's not necessarily how we should be. We should be more quick-minded, all right, than quick with the fists. All right, but I get it. I'm not condoning what Jake does, all right? But that's just Jake just needs to understand that we need to be more ready to fight with words than with fists, all right? And not necessarily fight with words as in have an attitudinal issue. Inside joke. Have an attitudinal issue, all right, or being cocky or smart aleck, all right, or being, you know, like that, but being ready with the words to be able to, you know, say our piece, all right, say what we have to say, all right, not in an aggressive manner, but having a intellect battle, not a battle of ad hominem attacks or trying to fight someone one-on-one. It's not going to get you anywhere, right? Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. And when you're not doing that, that could very well end with your life ending. All right, as it says, Ephesians 5:15, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Why? Redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Now, circumspect means wary and unwilling to take risks. All right, we cannot be willing to take risks. All right, we can't be willing to jump over the bridge and hope that it's just water and no rocks down below. We can't make that risk. All right, I'm not talking about physically, well, physically as well, or literally. I'm talking about, you know, as parabolically. Okay, you shouldn't do that in real life either, because, I mean, if you don't know what's down below, yeah, you might land on a rock and crack your head open. That would be a dumb way to die, all right? But we have to be circumspect in all ways.
Circumspect.
All right, wary and unwilling to take risks. And some people will try to be smart alecks, and they'll try to say, oh, well, you know, aren't you taking a risk doing this and that? Well, we're taking a risk by, you know, preaching this gospel, but we're taking a risk for Yahweh Shema Shai's sake, so it's different, okay? If they kill us because of this truth, that's fine, all right, that's fine. But going out in the world and saying some stupid stuff and getting killed of it, that's dumb, all right. That's not doing the work and the will of the Father, all right. If you die while you're preaching, you die because you happen to be in this truth and you were doing the right thing, all right. That's different than, you know, being a wicked person out in the world and you got shot or stabbed. If you get shot and stabbed in this truth, all right, because they didn't like what you had to say about the Lord, or they didn't like what you had to say about the Bible or who the people are, then you were martyred. All right, you were martyred. All right, and Yahweh Shema Shai is going to make sure that you get the VIP status. All right, and you'll be quick to resurrect. All right, on the you know, essentially resurrect. You'll be brought back. All right, in the end. All right, when you board the chariots. All right, and the chariots, what the chariots are, that's a topic for another day. But in short, all right, that's why there's so much. Shrouded mystery around what UFOs are, because when you look into UFOs, there's a bunch of books. You know, the spaceship in Ezekiel. When you look into it, the chariots, all right, that are mentioned in the Bible, the clouds that are mentioned in the Bible, that he walked on, he maketh the clouds as chariots. You know, he cometh with clouds, and all this talk about chariots and clouds. If you go and get the imagery in the Bible, you know, talking about lifted up his eyes, says, I see a flying roll, all right, or you go and look into the wheel within a wheel, all right, you start to make. I mean, if you have a well-rounded, intelligible mind, you should, and the Holy Spirit, most importantly, dealing with you, you should start to come to the conclusion, because even people out in the world started coming to the conclusion about, you know, the spaceships of Ezekiel. There's a book on it, all right, Spaceships of Ezekiel. All right, it's a book, The Spaceships of Ezekiel. And what was the tagline for it? It says, was Earth once visited from outer space? Did alien beings walk our planet? A major NASA engineer reveals some astonishing facts. Well, if you think about the Lord and his angels, okay, they are technically, by definition, alien, all right, foreign to this world, all right. Now, they, of course, Yahushai, walked on Earth, but after he left, he's become, essentially a stranger in a way to this world. He's not of this world, all right? He's essentially, you'd be considered an alien, all right? He's not a resident of this world, all right? So he would be considered as an alien, all right? And the angels, of course, would be considered alien, and the Father Yahweh would be considered alien, okay? So, but and it's of course he's not going to have it all down, but yeah, people should be able to come to the conclusion. And same thing with Elijah being lifted up in a whirlwind. All right, you can even look up Elijah. Internet's being funky. Give me a minute. Sometimes it does this. It pauses for a little bit. I don't necessarily know what it is. It could be a bandwidth issue or something. But there shouldn't be too much going on. There we go. Now you can see Elijah the prophet that got carried into heaven by a chariot of fire. All right, and they show this, a chariot of fire, but really, when you get down into it, excuse me, whirlwind. It was a whirlwind. When you really get down into it, what does this one say? Ezekiel. Okay, I was just double checking. But when you really get down to it, it's dealing with, UFO, which sounds crazy. All right, we get it. Sounds crazy. When you first hear it, it does sound crazy. But when you really start reading the scriptures that are talking about chariots and the whirlwinds and the scroll and the clouds, and you really start to understand, you really do begin to understand why, and you read the scriptures about how the armies of this world are going to try to fight against the Lord, all right, and the Lord and his armies, and then you realize things about like Space Force, and you should start to make conclusions that why are they so secretive, all right? Why are they so secretive? If it's little green men and that's out, all right, and they've been talking about that for years, well, why such secrecy? Why not just say, oh, it is little green men? We've had it out for years. You guys were right. It was little green men. They would have that out. But the little green men are a distraction. Okay, they don't want you to know the truth, and that's the whole thing with Babylon, all right, which is America. That's the whole thing with Esau, as the wicked currently ruling the world. They don't want you to know these things, okay? They don't want you to know those things. But anyway, getting off track, if you get martyred, all right, because of this truth, all right, you come back and you're, in the first in line to go and get on those ships, which is, mind you, the way that we're getting delivered out of Babylon, Lord willing, okay, is by going up, all right, come up, and they beheld their enemies, all right, and they beheld their enemies. Okay, we can go and get that. And go get it. Revelation 11 and 12. It says, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither, and they ascended up to heaven, in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And then it talks about, of course, the destruction of Babylon, the great earthquake, of course, is what the nukes hitting, right? Revelation 11:13. In the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. The 10th part of the city falling is synonymous with, really it's detailed with FEMA zones. There's 10 FEMA zones, and the 10th zone falling, of course, is referring to America, Babylon the Great being completely destroyed. It says, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. Seven in the Bible means completion, so however many people needed to die died. 7,000, and the remnant, that's the elect, all right, that's the people that are going to be saved out of it, including those that potentially were even martyred, okay? Remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the power of heaven, all right, Yahweh. So that's a completely separate incident if you happen to be killed for this truth. But if you happen to be out in the world and you said something and someone shot you up, all right, that's a little different. That's judgment. And this lady was judged. This is judgment. All right. Again, I'm not saying she was a saint. She wasn't. All right. If you actually look into it, she was doing things that were biblically condemnable. All right. So we're going to get into that. But Ephesians 5:15 again, it says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. So we have to be wise. And what was done here was not wise. Okay, another scripture as before I get into it. Agree with thine adversary quickly. All right, this is something that we need to know as Israelites. All right, and being in this truth. Matthew 5:25, another red letter. So Yahushua is speaking. It says, agree with thine adversary quickly. Your enemy, all right? It says, while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Or in this society, they might just be the judge, jury, and executor, okay? That's what they might judge dredge you, all right? And bop, all right? That might be everything you get right then and there. Okay, so you got it, yeah, is it gonna suck? Yes, of course it sucks. All right, no one wants to. Let's go. You were going too fast. You don't want. I was an officer. Yes, you were. I checked my speed. You were going. Okay, officer. All right, and nobody wants to have to do that. All right, no one wants to say, okay, look, pay the ticket and move it along. It's either paying the ticket or your family's gonna pay for a casket, man. Okay, because these guys are looking for any reason to kill your melanated ass. And I sound melanated because not just black. You might be Latino. All right, you might be Native American. All right, they're looking for any reason to kill you, and especially you. Let alone they kill their own people. All right, the Edomites are murderers. All right, they love blood. All right, it said that since thou hast not hated blood, mind you, that's dealing with Israel. But it says even blood shall pursue you. All right, so in the days coming, all right, not by us but by the Lord. All right, and the wicked 2/3 out in the world, these guys are their blood is gonna start being shed. All right, there, because with this insurrection that they're leading, people are starting to get crazy. These leftists. All right. And eventually, perhaps even the righties, all right? And we're not politically affiliated, all right? We're only affiliated with Yahweh Shem Yahushai, all right? We don't care about the left or the right. We don't mess with Democrats or Republicans. They're both wrong. They're both off. You got, a bunch of wacky-tacky crazy people, and you got a bunch of racists, all right? So two sides of the same coin, all right? Same sucker, different flavor. That's all it is, okay? It's like one of those suckers where the back was like strawberry and the front was like, cherry or something like that. And there are two different flavors on each side. It's the same sucker, just a different flavor. All right. Two sides of the same coin, as they say. But again, they're starting to do it with their people. They're killing their own people. Trump is even labeled. He said, Democrats, Antifa, anybody like that as terrorists, anybody that's anti-American terrorists. So we fall into that group. We've been labeled as terrorists. Are we? Because he said, and against Christian values. Are we against Christian values? Yes, we're not Christian. We deal with the Bible. The Bible is not being dealt with by Christians. Christians deal with emotion. All right, the breakdowns that they have don't come from the Bible. Their doctrine does not come from the Bible. Most of it, some of it does. All right, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 chapters of it, but the rest comes from feeling. All right, God loves everybody. The Bible doesn't say God loves everybody. Oh, the Lord loves the sinner, hates the sin. The Bible doesn't say that. It says the Lord hates sinners. All right, and in the Apocrypha, in the 1611, all right, before they removed the Apocrypha, all right, it says that, and that's why the Apocrypha has so much in it that they can't really hide, all right, or bend, all right, because it's so plainly spoken that they had to get rid of it. They had to remove it from the regular Bible. Okay, so a lot of people think it's apocryphal, but by definition, technically it is, all right, because it is hidden, but it's not really all that hidden because we have it. Okay, we have it. Okay, so again, not condoning what this lady did. She was lacking circumspection. Of course, she was probably an Edomite, so it didn't really apply to her anyway. Everybody should be living that way, but the Edomites aren't going to live justly. But and not agreeing with your adversary. All right, if you're having an issue with someone, look, bickering back and forth never calmed the situation down. There's no time where someone ever got some gasoline, started pouring it on a fire, and said, boy, I sure am glad that I did that. That sure made it better. Right? No. All right? No. Like, let's get one more. Okay? Let's get one more. Ecclesiasticus 28:12. It says, if thou blow the spark, it shall burn. If thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both of these come out of thy mouth. Another scripture talks about many have slain by the sword, but not as many as been slain by the tongue. Okay. Another one talks about, it says the tongue's unruly and full of unruly and evil. All right, roughly paraphrasing, full of evil. Tongue can no man tame. And I gotta see what's going on with my keyboard because my space bar has been kind of acting up. It says James 3:8. It says listen to the same scripture. This is the one I'll get, and then we'll play the video. So James 3:7. It says, For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind, but the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. It is the scripture. Fuck you. So there you go. So let's go ahead and play the video. Again, it's this lady right here on the right, okay? And you can see that, you know, they tried to come up and harass her. Should she have drove off? No, that was lack of circumspection. Do I think she was trying to hit the guy? No. I don't think she was purposely, intentionally trying to hit the guy. She was trying to get the hell away from them because they were trying to rip her out of her car. It's ice. She's probably afraid. Everybody hears about all the news, man. If you know, I have Yahweh Meow Shy, but I'd have to correct that behavior. If I saw ice, I might get afraid for a little bit. All right. My wife is a so-called. Why I look like a so-called, you know, because leprosy. You know, I look like a so-called white person. All right, like darker complected. All right, which who knows if they confuse that at this point. But I mean, they're dealing with white women at this point. So, if I was out with my white, you know, they're dealing they're doing the same shit to black people now, so-called. So I would be, yeah, at first, you know, the carnality might get to me before the, you know, because that's unfortunately how sometimes it works here. In Babylon, in these bodies, you know, so you have to, it's the way we'd like to have it is instantly, you know, safety, and you how about me, I'm like, I'm okay, but sometimes, you know, that fear hops on you real quick, and then you got to correct. You'd be like, oh shit, it's ice, right? And then I'd have to correct myself, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I would be like, oh, ooh, it's ice. And you know what I would do, being circumspect? I'd probably try to go another way because I wouldn't want to be near them because I know what they're about. So this lady, when this guy starts tugging on her car, you got to realize she's probably afraid and terrified after all the news that you see. All right, and guess what? Now the next person, they might drive away too because, or maybe they might not. Maybe they're not going to know what to do because now they're killing people for trying to escape. All right, if you watch the video, it doesn't look like she's trying to intentionally kill this guy. All right, everybody comes up to their own conclusion. It does not look like that. I can see how she's driving. She said they can go around, and she's trying to get away. She's trying to get away already. The guy comes up and tries to pull her out of the video. She's trying to go even more so. And the cop just happened to put himself in front of the video. That's not in front of the vehicle. That's not a smart thing to do, is put yourself in front of a vehicle. All right, first of all. All right, that's not smart on the cops' end. And he didn't have to shoot her. He could have got out of the way, but he wanted to shoot her. He wanted to kill her because he's an Edomite and he craves blood. So here you go. They were trying to see, she was driving. It says, go around. Go around. All right, and they didn't like that, so they hopped out on her, right? See, gave her the wave, said go around. Right? Already, look, before the cop is there, the vehicle is already in motion. The vehicle is already in motion. She has already started to back up. Let's go back. He said, get out of the fucking vehicle, right? And he started pulling on the side here. And before the people say, oh, you're saying bad words, that's a Christian teaching. That's not a biblical teaching. You can go and say corrupt communication. You can go and say filthy communication. Those are dealing with deceitful teachings. It's not talking about saying the word shit, all right? Just to say, that's what it's about. That's a doctrine of man that's being taught as a doctrine of the Lord, and it's not, and that's wicked. So before you try to condemn, look at yourself. Watch, already tried to go. This guy puts himself in front of the vehicle. Okay? He did not have to do that. Right? Look, his gun was already drawn. 15 seconds. Right? She's turning. Gun drawn. Instantly gun drawn. Before she even started coming towards him, he already made the just looking at this from a legal perspective. He already decided to shoot her before she even started to drive towards him. Okay, right there. Boom, shot right there. She's turning away from him. See how she's turning away from him? Okay. We'll play the video in a minute. I know you're, play the video. We'll get there. But look, turning away from him. All right, if she wanted to hit him, she could have sped up so fast and taken him out where he was. She turned the wheel. Watch the tires. See? See where it was turned? It was turned. All right? She was trying to get away from them. And you can see that she was turning away by the way she has a straight trajectory before slamming into the back of the vehicle, obviously because she was dying or dead, right? So here you go. Let's play it in full speed. So he said, go around, get out of the car, get out of the car. And Captain Long Dick over here, all right, because he thinks he's got the biggest dick in the world. He's over here trying to fucking boss himself because he probably fucking took back shots when he was younger, all right, and now he has some type of closeted homosexuality, and he has a complex he must uphold, all right. And I'm not going to play too much of the video because the lady yelling is quite annoying. Criminals! What the fuck? They don't care. They don't care. A lot of people talking about protest individuals. They don't care. Okay? Protesting is not going to get anything done. They don't care. They like to kill you. They want to kill you. There's nothing that you can do. Unless you have military grade tanks and F-16s, what are you going to do against them? Because they can literally declare martial law or the Insurrection Act. What are you going to do against them? All right? Even the people on, was it January 6th or whatever, with Trump, and they tried to march up in there, they didn't get anything done. They didn't get anything done. One of them got shot and killed, I believe, if I'm correct, because they tried to bust down that door, and the guy shot him. There was a video. I think we played it in a lesson a while back ago, whenever that happened, right? So they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about your life. They don't care that it's another human. They don't care that they murdered someone. They don't care. They don't care because they're not going to get any repercussions from this world. No, they'll eventually get repercussions from Yahal Bash Meow Shai, true, but they're not going to pay any of the legal costs. They're probably not going to be disbanded from the position. They're probably not going to even be in court all that long. All right, and then our tax money that we pay as taxpayers, as people that have the unfortunateness of living in America, all right, are going to have to pay for the burial and all the shit that ends up happening and the reparation that they end up providing to that woman's family. All right, we pay that, not them. Not them. We pay that. So they're not going to care. It doesn't come out of their money. They don't lose any time. They get some paid leave. They get to go and chill and go through a little bit of counseling for their woes that they might have had. Well, if you don't want to go through counseling, then don't brutally blood-curdlingly kill somebody. All right? And you don't really even need the counseling because you don't care. You're not losing sleep at the end of the day. All right? You know, you might have the Christian fear of, oh my God, am I going to hell? But that's it. Right? You don't really care about that person. They don't care. You are fucking insane! We're not gonna play the whole video. I'll probably go up there and that's it. Let her walk up there. And this is the guy here that killed her. Right there. Shame! Shame! Call 911. Shame! Shame! He doesn't care. Shame! He doesn't care. The only thing you see in his face right now, you know, is adrenaline. All right, he's still got adrenaline pumping through his body. That's it. He gets right in his car and takes the fuck off. All right, he says, I got to get out of here because he's cowardly. He's cowardly. Another guy taking off. All right, you can see some blood in the ground right there. Probably because she drove by. Probably arterial spray, if I had to guess. You can see some potential blood here. I don't know if this woman is the wife. All right, that's what I was going to mention. This woman was, you know, a lesbian. All right, which is, of course, against the Bible, which, of course, wicked's happen to those people, you know, and that's just how it happens. That's just how judgment goes. Whoever perished being innocent. All right, let's go and get that one. All right, and she did die by the sword. All right, that's a violent death. That is judgment, and we're not here to make fun. All right, and people are gonna say, no, you're wrong. But hey, evil men understand This is Proverbs 28:5. It says, evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. That is judgment. We're not saying it to make fun of. We're not lessening the situation, but that's the type of stuff that can happen when you're out in the world. All right, if you're doing wickedness. All right, it says, as we're going to get in verse 8, it says, remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. Okay, so those people that are doing wickedness, that's the reward of their actions. Okay, and again, not making fun, not poking fun, but that's just how it goes. If you're not living, all right, accordingly to the Lord, all right, and the Edomites don't, the heathens don't, all right, and the 2/3 that are Israelites don't, well, death is one of those things that follows. All right, and it might not be that day, that week, it might not even be that year. All right, there's a whole scripture about it, because judgment is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the Son of Man is fully set in them to do evil. All right, roughly paraphrasing. All right, so because they don't get judged right then and there. All right, they think that they can just keep on doing it. All right, right here, Ecclesiastes 8:11, it says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. That's how it goes, man. That's just how it goes. So, but we also got to get 12, all right, and 13. It says, though a sinner do evil 100 times and his days be prolonged, whether it be homosexuality or they were a drug addict or whatever they were doing, right, a scoffer or a mocker, it says, yet surely I know that it will be well with him that fear Yahweh, which fear before him, but it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before Yahweh. So these people are just like a shadow waiting for him. Right? A shadow waiting for him. Right? So that's just how it goes. All right. That's just the way that it is. And yeah, man. So let's go ahead and keep on going. So this is the lady here. Right? Let's see 2 different photos of her where she looks vastly different. All right. She looks pretty in this photo. Right? So she, again, I don't know if this seems to be all of them here. I mean, they don't look like the same person at all, but, that's how it goes. That's just how it goes. And it says, you killed my wife, woman shot by ice, a mother of a 6-year-old. So yeah, man, it's just, I don't know. This seems to be them, but yeah, man, that's the way it can go. That's the way it can go. You can see down here, this is another thing, Minneapolis driver shot and killed by ICE, but I wanted to talk about this, because really this is an insurrection, okay? This is an insurrection. What is an insurrection? It says a revolt or armed resistance against the government or ruler, all right? It says a legal context, an insurrection act. Well, that's dealing with the Insurrection Act, all right? We're dealing with that after. But insurrection. It says a violent uprising against an authority or government. Not always. All right. It's an uprising that resists. All right, and is organized against one. Well, that's dealing with a rebellion. All right, but it's dealing with an insurgence. All right, an insurgency, a rebellion, an uprising, a mutiny, and really, it's against the peoples. All right, of the United States of America. All right, and that's exactly what it is. All right, it's an insurrection. Okay. And they're going to try to do all these things like it says here. It says Noam calls this an act of domestic terrorism, but will say that Ashley Babbitt is a patriot. The amount of spending on this is going to be disgusting. It's true. They're just saying it's domestic terrorism. And then it goes on. It says, it's going to be some wild rioting, which I'm sure that Stephen Miller, troll, will use to push the Insurrection Act button that he's been desperately looking to push. It says they want to use that language so they can invoke the Insurrection Act, and that's what it's true. They want to invoke the Insurrection Act. All right, which There's 2 videos. This is the Apostle Gabar. All right, he's the apostle of the lead apostle of Great Millstone. All right, and that's where you go if you want the truth. All right, I'm not a part of GMS, but that's who I learned from. That's the same way I teach, because that's who I learned from. These brothers, these elders, these apostles, they have the truth. All right, if you want the truth, you know where to get it. And 3 months ago and 2 months ago, he made 2 videos. I'm actually just gonna let them play in their entirety. All right, because there's valuable information. All right, there's valuable information. Now, I haven't seen the second one, the Insurrection Act, but when I typed in Insurrection to find this video came up as well. So this video is a couple months ago. I just want to let it play. I'm gonna let the apostle speak. All right, and yeah, so here you go. So this is an event a couple months ago, but here you go.
This is an invasion from within. This
Yep.
is Chicago. This is live. And you see these guys with cowboy hats. They're not from Chicago. People in Chicago don't wear Chicago. They're from the Bible Belt. And they all look like Edomites. They're masked up. They're armed to the teeth.
Yep, the whole ICE and the whole National Guard shit they're doing.
This is an invasion from within. Scriptures speak about and look at this, man. Now, according to reports, they had shot a woman, these people, these invaders, and they claimed that she had a high-powered weapon. And they're not just coming after the Northern Kingdom, they're coming after the Southern Kingdom as well.
And what he means by that is Northern Kingdom, you know, there's 12 tribes of Israel. The Southern Kingdom makes up so-called black folk. The Northern Kingdom is so-called Latinos and Native Americans. Right, so they're not just going after Northern Kingdom, the Latinos and Native Americans, so-called, but they're also going after Southern Kingdom, which is so-called black folk, right?
This guy Trump is making history, man. This happened. You got Hitler, you got Stalin, you got Mao.
Yeah, now you got Trump.
You have the examples, man. And they're all Edomites. These guys are all Edomites. These guys are all Edomites, man.
And you can tell they're proud.
Edomites. This is a fucking invasion, bro. You got the woman, Edomite woman. And you're telling me that Nero's not racist. No. He said we got to go after the.
When he says Nero, he's referring to, of course, Donald Trump, because Donald Trump. I mean, look at him. He's the resurrection of Nero, man. He's Nero reincarnated. Look at him. Look how he acts. It's the same thing. Even go look at him. All right. Reincarnation is a biblical topic. We have topics on our page. You can go and look up on his very page. You can go and look up. You can go and type in this and look in reincarnation, and there's several lessons all about it. All right, several lessons all about it. Matter of fact, this is his newer page, so you can go and type in this is the Apostle Bar. All right, you can go on reincarnation. Okay, reincarnation, a biblical fact. Go and watch that video. That'll tell you what you need to know. Right, go and watch those. Reincarnation is a fundamental part of the Holy Scriptures. Go and watch that. All right,
you got to go after the enemy from within. This is the enemy from within. He's talking about Jake. Anyway,
yep.
Shalom.
Yep, and he said Jacob's trouble is here. This is an insurrection, and that's really this video is really what popped off and let it be known that Jacob's trouble is here now. We're in it. All right, we're in the early stages of it, but it started because prior to this video, prior to 3 or so months ago, it wasn't going out that we're in Jacob's trouble. The word was that, we're not in Jacob's trouble yet. All right, we're very, very close to it, but after this, we're in it. All right, because the insurrection, all these things going on, Jacob's trouble popping off. All right, now I haven't seen this one. We'll watch this one together. All right, this is 5 minutes long. I'm just going to play the whole thing. This is again by the Apostle Gabar. What is the 666 Mark II GMS Truth? And it's titled The Insurrection Act, Martial Law, Jacob's Trouble. So actually, I'll let the Apostle can explain it better than I can. So we might not even need to go into the Insurrection Act or what the definition of insurrection is. But here you go.
Praise Yahweh, Shem El Shah, Shem Rakakudah, Shalom to the 144,000 rest elect out there. Shalom to you all. I'm going to entitle this video The Insurrection Act and Martial Law. So I typed in Insurrection Act, which Nero 47 is talking about it right now. There's a
Nero 47, of course, Donald Trump.
table talk going on right now, going on for the last couple of hours. And they pretty much said Antifa is a terrorist organization. They're going to deem it by law as a terrorist, or officially call it a terrorist organization. Ultimately, they're going to call everything that's they deem to be against the state a terrorist organization. That means Israelites will be deemed as a terrorist organization, even though we read out of the scriptures.
Yep, we're gonna be classified as a terrorist organization simply because we teach that, you know, the Father and Son are so-called black men, all right, as they would be called today, and that, you know, the people over there in Israel now are not the real people, and that so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the real people. And what's going to happen in this place, prophesied in the Bible, we're gonna be labeled as that. Absolutely true. Yep, just that. They're gonna label us that. All right, so they can start doing things to us, because once you're labeled a domestic terrorist, they can do all sorts of shit towards you.
You know, we're coming down to the wire. Jacob's trouble. If they didn't go up there and tell you what Jacob's trouble is, this is Jacob's trouble. Insurrection Act equals Jacob's trouble. Martial law equals Jacob's trouble. Police state equals Jacob's trouble. Suspension of the Constitution. We've been telling you this for years.
Yep.
Is that the Insurrection Act is a U.S. federal law codified in Title 10 of that's military of the United States Code, U.S. Code. All laws in the federal U.S. is governed by the United States Code. That gives the president the power to deploy the U.S. military and federalize the National Guard to suppress civil unrest. Insurrections or rebellions. It functions as a key exception to the Posse Comitatus Act, because if you read the Posse Comitatus Act, U.S. military forces cannot do the jobs of police, but the Insurrection Act, you know, circumvents that.
And you're wondering what the insurrection is. It's, you know, people have a general unrest for, you know, the way things are being governed right now, okay, and they consider that rebellion. All right, they and all the people with you know, with how they're hating Trump, all right, and all the things that they're doing right now, that's civil unrest, okay. So they're in the prequel of, you know, dropping this Insurrection Act, martial law, all right, because they don't like where it's getting. That's why you have ICE. That's why you have these groups are going out. That's why they're trying to deem all these people as domestic terrorists, because really that's civil unrest and insurrection and rebellion to them. All right, and they want to be able to declare martial law. That's what they really want to be able to do. So that's why you see all these groups. They're getting closer and closer and closer to doing that. That's why you see all these groups. All right, the ICE and them deploying National Guard on American citizens and all these different types of things, right?
1878, which otherwise restricts the military from acting as a domestic police force, meaning a police state, martial law. And they're going to shoot people and they're going to kill people.
Man, if you don't get right, it might be you.
Okay, this is as of 1 day ago. What is Insurrection Act? Could it help Trump to deploy troops to U.S. cities? Absolutely, absolutely. Under the Insurrection Act.
That's the whole point.
It bypasses the Posse Comitatus Act, because they're saying it's an insurrection. They're taking over the government from the inside out. Insurrection Act. So you have the right to protest, and that's it.
And there's a million and one, not to cut the post off, but there's a million and one ways that they could stage it. They could say, oh, ICE, you know, we didn't want this to happen, and try to do some Nuremberg shit. They could say, oh, well, we did, you know, this and that. They could say that they could frame it a million. You know, Esau is their words are smoother than butter, but inwardly they were drawn swords. All right, that's so they can try to who knows how they're gonna fully try to frame it. They could say anything. They could try to blame it even on ICE, even though those guys are working with them right now. They could say, oh, well, they started doing some stuff that we didn't, and because of this, we're gonna have to, do something. ICE wasn't working, so now we're gonna have to, deploy, military troops. They'll get it right. Wait, there's a million and one ways, right? There's a million and one ways.
Peacefully protest, not hurt people, not break windows and throw rocks and Molotov cocktails at cars and go against the police and all that. They can deem that a, rebellion. So there you go. So he's back by law. He's not violating the Posse Comitatus Act because there's a rebellion, there's an emergency.
And you see the protests.
See, when you get into these scriptures, man, we've been telling you that they're gonna come down hard on everybody. That's Jacob's trouble. That's what have we been talking about for years? We've been talking
Nobody
about.
has it. Let me get that before I forget. Again, not to cut off the apostle. This is when he said that, it reminded me of Revelation 12 and 12. Actually, let me go and roll back the clip. All right, on what he said, because it reminded me of the scripture.
We've been talking about for years. We've been talking about second Ezra 15. That's Jacob's trouble.
What was it?
That's what have we been talking about for years? We've been talking about. See, when you get into these scriptures, man, we've been telling you that they're gonna come down hard on everybody.
All right, when he said that, it reminded me of Revelation 12 and 12, which says, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." All right. And the devil, of course, the Christians, and they incorrectly think that it's some guy with a pitchfork and horns and all that stuff. But no, it's dealing with a man, all right. And that man, Lucifer, it's really dealing with Esau, Edom. Okay, and as we get closer and closer to the end, he knows his time is running out because the Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, the high-up big league banking families, the 13 Jewish families, they know. They watch the lessons, all right. They watch the apostles' videos. All right, so they use that essentially as their version of almost like a doomsday clock. They know how much time, and they know that they're running out. All right, so they got to do things quick. All right, they got to do things quick, and with that, they're gonna they're like the apostle said, they're gonna come down hard, man.
That's Jacob's trouble. That's what have we been talking about for years? We've been talking about second Ezra 15, second Ezra 16. There's many precepts. There's many Revelation 12 and 12 speaks about the dragon, the devil coming down hard because he knoweth that he had but a short time.
Yeah.
The lamb with the two horns that spake as a dragon.
Yeah, and that's a scripture I got before I even heard. I knew when he said that, right? It's through the Spirit.
Laws. So they coming down hard. They shall cast some of you into prison. Yeah. Be ye faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. That's Revelation 2:10. And then they're gonna usher in that chip.
Yeah.
They're gonna usher in that chip. And once they usher in that chip, and it becomes mandatory, and the majority of the planet Earth, take it.
And the chip he's referring to is the RFID chip, all right? Biblically, it's known as the mark of the beast. You take that, you're toast. You're toast. You can't repent from it, all right? So the only thing you can do is not take it, all right? That's it.
That's when this place is done. So we out of here. We out of here in months. So pray that Jacob's trouble come quicker. The quicker Jacob's trouble is here. We're in the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble, but we want it to get hot and heavy, and that chip to come. When that chip comes, we out of here. We out of here, man. Then you should really look up into the heavens. Anyway, shalom. On to the next.
There you go. There you go. Apostle explained it perfectly. All right. So that's what an Insurrection Act. That's an insurrection. All right, Stephen Miller Insurrection Act. You can look this up because as that person on Reddit was saying, it says Stephen Miller, a former White House advisor, has been central to discussions around the Insurrection Act, asserting President Trump had plenary authority, broad power to deploy federalized National Guard troops, leading to debates about presidential power versus constitutional limits, especially after he accused judges of illegal insurrection for blocking deployments, referencing, see, he's trying to say, oh, he blocked it, that's an insurrection. All right, that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep, oh, that's an insurrection. All right, and they're going to do the Insurrection Act where they can just come down and fucking do whole martial law and just wipe your ass out. It says for blocking deployments, referencing the act that allows troop use against domestic violence, rebellion, or to enforce federal law, and it's deeper than that. And it's to enforce, the law of Trump, all right, of Nero, all right, what he wants, and really it's through, the bigling banking families, all right, they're just utilizing this guy. So, and that's what they do. They make these laws, all right, these wicked decrees. And we're going to get that, but Psalm 64:2, it says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. All right, and this, you can go on and read down 64:2 on down, and it talks about, shooting them arrows. They're wicked, how do I want to say it? They're wicked creations, all right, wickedness in music and certain, putting homosexuality in certain things, and the whole feminism thing, trying to do all these different things, and that's part of their thing. They shoot these bows, all right, they're gonna try to shoot at the elect, and it's just not gonna work, all right, it's not gonna work, all right. It talks about that, shooting at the perfect. It's not gonna work because the Lord's gonna shoot at them back, all right, and it's not gonna be good for them. And as it goes on to say, and everybody that sees them is gonna flee, all right, because they're gonna know. And that happened a little bit with the whole Kanye situation, because he was like, oh, you can't talk about these people, you know who these people are, you know who these people are. And then everyone said, no, that's not the case. And then he said, if you talk about them, they'll take away everything. And then he lost everything, and everybody stopped back for a minute and said, oh, I guess he was right. All right, so they revealed themselves. All right, they revealed themselves. So, like it says, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. And that's what they do. They work iniquity, wickedness. All right, and it's an insurrection that they're going to try to do. Not try to do. They are going to do it. But Psalm 64:2, it's just not going to go as 100% as they want planned, right? So the Lord's going to stop it just as they're almost about to take the bite of that steak. The Lord's going to shut it down. So Psalm 64:2, it says, hide me, this is the Amplified Bible, it says, hide me from the secret counsel and conspiracy of the ungodly, from the scheming of those who do wrong. So over here, we got Micah 2:2. How long have we been going? About an hour. It says, and they covet fields. This is what Esau does. This is Esau, dealing with Esau. This is what they do. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage. That's what they do. All right, they just oppress a man. They oppress a man's heritage. They just oppress and 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 oppress. Okay, and the Lord, he said in 3, he said, therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. All right, and that's what they're gonna do, or that's what he's gonna do, and that's it's gonna happen to them. All right. So you can see right here, it says they covet fields and seize them, this Amp Bible again, and houses and take them away. They oppress and rob a man in his house, a man in his inheritance. All right, that's what they do. They oppress. All right, that's the only thing they know how to do is oppress. They don't know how to do anything good. If they do any good, if he doeth, right here, Ecclesiastes 14:7, it says, and if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. That's what they do. All right, they can't do anything good. They can't. And if they do anything good, they do it unwillingly. Here it is. They tried to make super death, all right, and put it in all the food, all right, to kill people, and accidentally end up creating a cure for cancer or something like that. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Roll that back. We don't want that. Take those off the shelves, all right? So Isaiah 10:1, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees." And that's an unrighteous law. Or the Insurrection Act is going to be an unrighteous law. And what they're doing right now is they've already, the big beautiful bill was a whole list full of a bunch of fucking unrighteous decrees. All right, it's just a bunch of fucking evil shit. All right, that's all it was. Okay, that's a whole list. You can go look up the big beautiful bill. All right, Isaiah 10:1, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." All right, it says to turn aside the needy from judgment. Here it is, the needy. They need something. Fuck them. They don't need it. Get rid of them. We don't care. Kill them. They mean nothing to us. That's how they think, right? It says, and to take away the right from the poor of my people. And that's the other thing. They rob the poor. They rob the needy. They're oppressors. They're evil. They're evil sons of bitches, man. It says that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. Here it is. They already have enough issues going on, and they're just extracting from them. All right, as if it was an oil refinement, an oil drill, an oil rig, pumping and taking everything that they can get. All right, and they call somebody that it doesn't work for 3 months, or somebody that decides to collect unemployment or food stamps for entirely too long. And you should look for a job. You should, but I mean, if you have to use those things, you can use those things. But even if you were taking advantage of the system, as they say, but you do it for, in 6 months is even an advantage. If you can't find a job, you can't find a job. If you're trying to specifically, tailor it to where, you don't get a job for as long as possible, so you just can extract as much as you can, you shouldn't be doing that, right? You shouldn't be doing that. You should be working as a man. But, everybody gets unemployed, all right? Things happen, and you go out there and you try to, get you back another job, all right? And if you have to use the system, you have to use the system for a little bit. Use, not abuse, as they say. But they'll get mad at someone that does that, when at the end of the day, someone that goes on and, tries to extract all they can get out of the system for 2 years is really, how bad really are they after all that you've taken from them? Really, all the money that they're getting back is all the money that they paid in taxes. You've robbed from them, you've taken from them, and you don't really give it back. You get tax returns, you get that back. You don't get all of it back, all right? You get some of it back, all right? And you pay taxes on everything, and entirely too much, mind you, okay? Mind you, what is Nevada sales tax currently? Okay, they say it's 6.85, but that's, they say it can be high as 8.265, and that's bullshit, all right? Because, and that's just that, what is Nevada's tax electronic? It's another thing. All right, electronic. Let me say it's 8%. All right, which is still, a lie. State with highest sales tax. And there's some are, they got Louisiana at 10.11% is what they say. All right, 10.119999. All right. And again, and you pay that off every transaction, right? Mind you, biblically, whenever you got paid, you would give 10%. Okay? It's not you go and you buy a quilt and you pay 10%. All right, and then you go and buy a beard oil and it's 10%, and then you go and buy a chariot and it's 10%, and then you go buy some shoes and it's 10%. All right, and then you go and buy, some beef and it's 10%, some cheese and then that's 10%. All right, then you go to the other store, you get some milk, that's 10%. They're extracting the hell out of you, man. All right. Meanwhile, you got paid, whatever you got in, or whether it would be good, if you got, 1,000 cheeses, all right, you made, or 1,000, gallons of milk from your cows or whatever, you would give 10% of that, all right, to the church, all right, or biblically, all right, with the biblical church, not the same thing as now. So, to the Lord, all right, 10% will go to the Lord, all right, and for lack of a better word, all right, and that's pretty much the best way it goes, is giving to the Lord, okay? However it gets there, whether you give it to the apostles or, it all goes back to the Lord. And It's not the same as alms either, given to the homeless. It's not the same. That's something separate that you should do, all right, but it's separate than tithes. You would pay tithes usually to, biblically, like a church leader, but in this case, it would be the apostles and GMS. All right, you can pay tithes to them, all right, and they're not going to nag you about it, but that's what you should be doing, all right, and if you don't, you don't. They're not going to, you haven't paid your tithes. They're not going to, no, they're just going to, you do. If you can give. If you can't, you can't. We know we can't keep every law perfectly, but you should give 10%. All right, you should give 10%. Even when I don't have nothing, I still try to give 10%. Unless I don't have anything at all, then I can't give anything at all because I don't have anything. But if I have $5, I can give 10% of that, right? But yeah, man, and it's just one of those things where that's unrighteous. Everywhere you're going, you're paying 10%. Biblically, you would get your check or however it would be, say, oh, you did all this work, here's 300 shekels. All right, you would give 10% of that. All right, and then you could spend that money freely. All right, after you spent your 10%, you didn't have to spend 10% because you bought some cheese, and 10% on the beef, and then 10% on the shoes, and then 10% because you bought a hat. No, you already got the 10% was already given. Okay, the 10% was already given. All right, and sometimes, and then when it switched over to Caesar's rule, you would give taxes. How did taxes work in Rome? Okay, a tax based on property, land, building, poll tax on individual. Look, a 1% sales tax, later increased by, even back then. All right, custom duties on trade. So this is Esau's rule back then, and they were still already going overboard with the taxing. Lots and lots of taxing, but still 1% is nothing. All right, 1% is nothing. All right, Esau, now they're hitting you with 9, 8%, 10%, right? 7%, 5% here. Then they got an electronic sales tax, and they got regular sales tax, and they got income sales tax, and they got social security tax. They got all these taxes, man. That's where that saying comes from. The only things you're guaranteed in life is death and taxes, right? So Micah 2:1, it says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it. Why? Why do they practice it? Because it is in the power of their hand. Because they can, they do it, all right? And that's what we should have got earlier, because I got 2, but I forgot that I had verse 1. I don't know why I separated them, slack you. But yeah, man, so that's what they do. All right, iniquity is sin upon sin. They devise iniquity. They think about these things. That goes back to the secret counsel of the wicked. When they have that secret counsel, they said, all right, what can we do that's wicked? How can we devise some iniquity? How can we come up with some evil shit? Right? That's what they do. All right, and woe means destruction. Destruction's going to come unto them. Right? The Lord's going to get these people. Right? He's going to get these people. So and that's because the earth is given into the hand of these people. That, like it says, Job 9:24, the earth is given in the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And again, it talks about Esau being, the Idumeans, the Edomites being called as the border of wickedness, and labeling them in that scripture as the wicked. All right, they're labeled as the wicked when they were called the border of wickedness. That's them being labeled as the wicked. All right. Now, sometimes the wicked can refer to, depending on the context, you might say, oh, the wicked, like the wicked of my people, all right, dealing with the Israelites. But if you just see the wicked in the Bible or the devil, that's referring to Esau, Edom. Okay. And what's going to happen to them? Because of all this, we got to go and get that. Because of unrighteous dealings. All right, Ecclesiasticus 10:8, it says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, lying, right? It says the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And right now is Esau's kingdom. And this kingdom is going to be translated from them to Jake. All right, it's going to go from the so-called white man's world to the so-called black man, Latino, Native Americans world. All right, that's how it's gonna go. So second Esdras, and and the king, all right, Yahushua is a so-called black man. All right, it's gonna be his kingdom. All right, that was promised to him by the Father, Yahweh. Okay, and as part of his inheritance, and he's gonna share that inheritance with us because he's merciful, he's great, he's fantastic. He's Yahushua. All right, and he's a good judge. He's a righteous ruler. All right, unlike Esau. Okay, So Jake has compassion, and he is a Jake, all right? Yahushua, he's of the tribe of Judah. So Esau doesn't have compassion, okay? Doesn't even have compassion. You know, there's sometimes we even almost feel bad for the Edomites because we have so much compassion. We're like, man, it's kind of sad, but it has to happen to them, right? It has to happen to them because of all the wickedness they've done, right? I mean, there's no scenario where they could ever not be proud enough where they would ever repent and actually ever truly feel sorry for what they've done. So they have to be destroyed through the Lord, right? They have to, all right? Is it sad in a way? Almost. I mean, yeah, I mean, in a way, right? So, I mean, that's just not the way it happened, right? That's just not the way it happened because they wanted to be wicked, all right? And it's just one of those things, like if you go and do something your dad told you not to do and you get your ass whooped, it's sad, but you had to get your ass whooped. I mean, you weren't learning, you weren't listening, right? And with Esau, you say, well, why don't they get their ass whooped? They've gotten their ass whooped over and over and over and over and over again, okay? You know, and the sentence for a rebellious child back then that didn't listen, guess what? Was death. Okay, and the ass whoopings weren't working, so Esau has to be put to death by the Lord, not us, by the Lord. Okay, now you know we'll be having our hands on them in the kingdom, but not in this society. Okay, that's all going to be the Lord that's putting them out of power. All right, so 2nd Ezra 6:9 proves it. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that falleth. So you know we're waiting for righteous judgment. All right, and that's not going to happen in this society. It says there, how does it go? Therefore, wrong judgment. Habakkuk 1:4. All right. It says, therefore, the law is slacked. We might want to go from 3. We'll read it from just the first one. It says, King James Bible says, the burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. O Lord, how long shall I cry? This is a lamentation essentially, and a plea to the Lord. He wanted to, you know, not be, you know, having the wicked like this. You know, it was very grievous. All right, to him. It says, O Lord, how long shall I cry and thou wilt not hear? Even cry out unto thee of violence and thou wilt not save. And it wasn't like actual literal doubt. It was just like desperation and like anguish. Right? He hated what was happening. It says, why dost thou show me iniquity and cause me to behold grievance? Right? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there are that rise up strife and contention. He was grieved for what he was saying. He says, you know, there's spoiling and violence before me. I'm seeing all these horrible things. It's terrible, Lord. How long am I gonna have to go through it? Please, why are you doing this, Lord? Please help. Right? It says, therefore the law is slacked, and judgment doth never go forth. For the wicked doth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. And that's what's happening. He's saying, Lord, you know, the wrong judgment's going out. Right? The righteous are trying to do things, and the wicked are compassing about them, and the wrong judgments are happening. Right? Wrong. They're not judging rightfully, Lord. Right? So there you go, man. And it is grievous. That's why we cry to the Lord, all right, in our prayers, you know, about, you know, wanting to get out of this place, and, you know, and Lord willing, we're doing right, and that we're part of the elect and we make it, all right, and, you know, that this place gets destroyed, all right, and it's, you know, that's just how it goes. Every day you're going to have, you know, different things in your prayers. Sometimes you have some things that you always pray about, but, you know, one of those things that comes up is getting out of here, and Esau, you know, your enemies being destroyed. All right, because this place is terrible. It's horrible. All right, it's depressing to be in. All right, you know, you'll have someone can walk over to you, punch you in the face, and you'll say, hey man, you know, you push them and say, get off me, don't punch me in the face. All right, and again, you say, oh, wasn't that lack of circumspection? No, you're allowed to defend yourself. All right, you're allowed to defend yourself. You just shouldn't be the aggressor. If someone's punching on you, yeah, you can defend yourself. All right, and you might get shot, and if that's judgment. Still, if that happens to be the case, then that was just going to happen to you. That was your lot. But unless you were defending yourself in a church-like manner, all right, you were, of course, preaching or something, someone came up to you and being aggressive, and they hit you and you hit them and you got shot, that's still martyred. All right, you just got to go on a per situational basis. But you know, in this society, you know, someone can come up and hey, you asshole, and punch you in the face, and you say, hey, get off me, man. They punch you and you deck them in the jaw, and they fall back and they trip. All right, and now you're going to jail too. right? Because you defended yourself. That's wrong judgment. All you were doing was defending yourself. Why do you have to go to jail? Why do I have to go to jail if I defended myself? That's not right, right? But that's how it works in this society. That's wrong judgment. All right, and that's why the kingdom has to be translated. Again, 2nd Ezra 6 and 9 says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. Because, Esau is, they got to be taken out of power, and Jacob's got to be placed into power. And then right judgments are going to start being going out. All right, but not until Esau's out of power. So that's how this goes. You're going to see more insurrections. You're going to see more ICE shootings. People, you're going to see even people rising up against ICE. You're going to see a lot of different things, all right, coming up into the end of the world. But you just keep on praying, all right? Keep on doing what you're supposed to do as a man of the Lord or a woman of the Lord, praying, doing right, making your lessons, doing your womanly duties, doing your husbandly duties is first and foremost. Doing your manly duties is under Yahweh Shem Yahushai. That's your first priority. And, just trying to, get around the society best you can, all right? Because we hate this place. We want it to we've seen the movie, all right? It's like those movies where, it's gone on for some time, and, we're ready for the movie to end, all right? We're ready for the part 2, all right? Because part 2 of this movie is way better than the first part, okay? Part 2 is way better than the first part, okay? So that's what we're waiting for. So that's where we're going to close out. Lord willing, it was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Shalom, dear brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. Thankfully, we're almost out of here. Until the next one, Lord willing. Shalom.